So you just finished your 3 Odyssey plans. Congratulations. You're now more confused than when you started. Welcome to the club. I'm serious. If you're not at least a little uncomfortable right now, you probably didn't do it right. Because here's what nobody tells you about Odyssey planning. It's supposed to mess with your head. Let me show you 10 problems you're about to face, and why each one is actually a feature, not a bug. Problem 1. You now have 3 lives you want to live. Remember when you only had to worry about one path? Yeah, that was simpler. Now you've got 3 entirely different futures competing for your attention, and honestly, they all look pretty good. Here's why that's actually perfect. The Stanford research shows that people who ideate multiple options in parallel end up with better final solutions than those who iterate on just one idea. You're not supposed to pick the best one yet. You're supposed to hold the tension. The reframe? You're not choosing between 3 lives. You're designing from 3 possibilities. Big difference. Problem 2. You're comparing your real life to your imaginary plans, and your real life is losing. This is a sneaky one, because your Odyssey plans are highlight reels, and they're the best version of each path. Meanwhile, your actual current life has, laundry and taxes and that annoying coworker. The DYL book warns against this. Don't fall in love with imaginary lives. They're tools for exploration, not fantasies to escape into. So let's reframe. Your current life is your starting point, not your enemy. Even if you end up choosing plan 2 or 3, you're building toward it from where you are now. And to be clear, most life design happens incrementally, not in dramatic overnight transformations. Build your way forward. Don't just dream your way sideways. Problem 3. Your wildcard option is freaking out everyone around you. Yeah, your parents, your spouse, your friends, they didn't sign up for, what if you moved to Singapore and became a life coach to Crazy Rich Asians or whatever your plan 3 is? This is where it gets real. Because DYL says you need to involve your intimates in your life design process. But it doesn't say they're going to like all your plans. The reframe is crucial. You're not asking for permission. You're asking for their perspective. And you're definitely not making any decisions yet. You're prototyping. You're exploring. Tell them, I'm not saying I'm doing this. I'm saying I need to understand if this could work. That usually turns down the temperature in the room. Problem 4. You're now hyper aware of the opportunity cost of everything. Every day you spend in your current situation is a day you're not spending building plan 2 or plan 3. It's like you've developed this annoying superpower where you can see all the lives that you're not living. DYL calls this choice anxiety, and it's one of those gravity problems you can't solve. You can only accept and work around. Here's what helps. Remember that Odyssey plans aren't about living all 3 lives. They're about having the clarity to choose. And DYL is clear. You need to eventually let go of the unchosen options to fully commit to the one you pick. But not yet. Right now, you're still in the explore phase. Give yourself permission to sit in the discomfort. Problem 5. You realize you need skills, resources, or connections you don't currently have. Looking at your 3 plans, you probably notice some gaps like, to do plan 2, I need to learn how to vibe code, and I barely know how to even make a spreadsheet. This is where people usually freeze up. But DYL has a beautiful solution. Prototyping. You don't need to have everything figured out. You need to test whether you actually want to acquire those skills. Do some life design interviews with people living that version of your plan 2. spend a weekend doing a beginner tutorial in prompting AI. See if you even like it before you commit to anything. The dashboard metrics from the Odyssey Planning activity help here. Rate each plan on resources, likability, confidence, and coherence. A low resources score isn't a deal breaker. It's just data for your next prototype. Problem 6. Your plans conflict with each other, and that's stressing you out. Like, plan 1 requires you to stay in the city for a promotion. Plan 2 requires you to move to a different state. Plan 3 requires complete location flexibility. How are you supposed to make progress on all 3 when they pull you in different directions? Short answer, you're not. That's not the point. DYL encourages you to use the first 6 to 12 months to prototype all 3 through low-risk experiments. You're not building all 3 lives simultaneously. You're gathering data about which one resonates most deeply with your work view and life view. Wait, what's work view and life view, you might ask? That's actually the fundamental activity you'll want to do before Odyssey Planning. I'll share more about that in a future series. Problem 7. You realize one of your plans is based on someone else's definition of success. Maybe plan 1 is what your parents wanted, or plan 2 is what your industry says you should do. And you only notice this after writing it down and seeing it next to your other plans. This is actually one of the most valuable problems Odyssey Planning creates. DYL talks about dysfunctional beliefs, those myths we internalize about how life is supposed to work. One of the biggest ones is, I should already know where I'm going. But here's the reframe. You can't know where you're going until you know where you are. And you can't know what you want until you separate it from what everyone else wants for you. So if you've discovered one of your plans is borrowed, good. Now you can consciously decide whether to keep it or replace it with something more authentic. Problem 8. You don't actually know which plan to prototype first. You've got 3 plans. You're supposed to test them. But where do you even start? DYL's answer? Start with the one that scares you the most, but in the smallest possible way. If plan 3, the wildcard plan, terrifies you, that's probably where the most learning is. But you don't have to quit your job and move to Singapore tomorrow. You can start by having a 30-minute coffee chat with someone who coaches very high net worth people, or spending one weekend learning how crazy rich Asians really live in Singapore. Beware the rabbit holes there. Or come test out my plan 2 with me. My headline was Premium Tour Guide to Christian Professionals. The bias to action mindset says, try stuff. The smallest prototype that gives you real data is better than months of analysis paralysis. And honestly, you'll know which plan to explore first because you won't be able to stop thinking about it. Follow that energy. Problem 9. Your safe plan suddenly feels boring. You know, that plan 1 you wrote, the one that's just about your current trajectory extended forward 5 years, it probably felt responsible when you started. Now it feels like settling. That's because you just gave yourself permission to dream again with plans 2 and 3. And now that contrast is painful. But here's the thing. Boring doesn't mean wrong. Sometimes the expected path is actually perfectly aligned with your work view and life view. Again, if you're wondering what this is, I'll be sharing more in a future series. The problem isn't the plan, it's that you'd never consciously chosen it before. You'd just defaulted into it. The solution? Run it through your coherence check. Does it connect with who you are, what you believe, and what you're doing? If yes, it's not boring, it's intentional. And that changes everything. Problem 10. You're now questioning everything about your current life trajectory. And I mean everything. Your job, your location, your relationships, your daily habits, it's all up for examination now. This is probably the biggest problem Odyssey Planning creates. Because once you see that you have options, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to autopilot. But here's what DYL makes clear. Questioning everything doesn't mean changing everything. It means living deliberately instead of by default. Some people do their Odyssey plans and realize their current path is perfect. They just needed to choose it consciously instead of stumbling into it. Others discover they need a major redesign. Most fall somewhere in between. The point isn't disruption for disruption's sake. It's coherence. It's making sure there's alignment between who you are, what you believe, and what you're doing. So yeah, Odyssey plans create a number of problems. They're supposed to. Because the alternative is sleepwalking through a life someone else designed for you. And the beautiful thing, every one of these problems is actually an invitation to get curious, to try stuff, to build your way forward instead of thinking your way in circles. Your Odyssey plans aren't the answer. They're the beginning of the right questions. Type OP in the comments if you want help turning that discomfort into your right next step. Because the best life isn't the one you plan perfectly. It's the one you design actively. Type OP in the comments if you want help turning that discomfort into your next right step. Because the best life isn't the one you plan perfectly. It's the one you design actively. Now let's design.